Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Universe podcast. I'm your host, James, and I'd like to welcome you to the year 2025, a year that is going to be packed full of Star Wars goodness. This month's episode is going to be a little bit different. I haven't asked for any feedback from what other people are doing in Star Wars, and that has been a very deliberate thing by me. This month, I wanted to do a little bit of a retrospective of the year 2024, as well as going through what I've been doing in Star Wars this month. So you will still get the update from me, but I haven't asked for what you've been up to. So if you want to let me know what you've been doing through December and January, then you can let me know on Twitter at starwarsyoupod or by email starwarsyoupod@gmail.com. Whilst you're contacting me, feel free to follow me on Twitter and feel free to hit the subscribe button or follow button or whatever your podcatcher of choice calls it. And whilst you're doing that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, where you will see me open up some of the things I've been discussing today, some of the things I will be discussing today, and other things that I will be getting for Christmas as well, if there is anything. So without further ado, let's get into what I've been up to this past month in Star Wars, and then we'll have a look at what's coming up in Star Wars in 2025, and then finish off with what I've been up to statistics-wise in 2024. So this month, as always, we'll start with games. Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I am back in the game fully. It's really brought back the joy for me. I've got a target. I'm working towards the Ahsoka Galactic Legend, and I am still working on the Peridia Troopers, so Captain Enoch, the Death Trooper, and the Peridia Stormtrooper. That is just a really slow grind, and I am doing everything I can to get through that as quickly as possible. I am waiting for the Padawan Sabine Wren, General Syndulla, and Huyang to become farmable, and those are my last characters really for the Ahsoka GL. I've got a couple more relic levels on some of the other Ahsoka based characters, so Snips and Commander Ahsoka Tano, which I need to take up to relic 9. They're both currently relic 6 or relic 7. So it's just a really, really fun game again. I'm enjoying the game modes. I've dropped massively in the player versus player mode GAC, and so I'm just slowly working my way back up there. I've managed to get the Great Mothers up to 7 stars, so they're the 3 Night Sister leaders from the Ahsoka series, and I'm just really enjoying the game again. Really, really enjoying the game again. Only other game news I have is I'm actually recording this before Christmas, but I have a very sneaking suspicion that I might be getting Jedi Survivor for Christmas. So I'll keep you appraised of my progress on that game as I go through it. Collectibles wise, not huge amounts. I actually haven't got any Star Wars Unlimited cards this month. I've front loaded the YouTube channel all the way through this month because I knew it was going to be a busy one. I am part of a group on Facebook, the Stranded Panda Podcast Network group, and we have a little side chat on there, and we do a little Secret Santa every year. My Secret Santa this year was actually the one who got me a gift. So naturally, I got her some Star Wars stuff. Her name is Katie, and if you're listening, Katie, really, really hope you like the bits and pieces I picked up for you. I picked up a Chopper Tiki mug, I believe they're called, and I got her a Chopper backpack, as well as something else. I think some straws to go in the mug as well, but I think they were also Star Wars based. So really, really hope you enjoyed those gifts, Katie. She does know that I got them for her, so this isn't a reveal of anything. And in return, she sent me a Grogu Christmas Funko to go alongside my Yoda Christmas Funko. So I will be doing an opening of those on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to head over there and hit subscribe. And she also got me a Grogu LED light. So it's kind of one of those sort of straight line, sort of blueprint lights. Kind of looks a little bit like a hologram. And I really, really like it. That is going to sit on my desk and probably keep me somewhat distracted at times. Really, really light month on the collectibles compared to what I have been doing recently in terms of the Star Wars Unlimited stuff. But some really, really good additions to the collection. Comics-wise, I have read through the first 2 volumes of Dr. Aphra, the first run from 2016, I want to say. First volume, really, really good. Second one didn't quite hit it for me. It felt like I needed to know the details of the story, but I didn't really particularly enjoy the way it was written, the way it was drawn. It was quite different from volume 1. But I do know that the series is held in really high regard, and I'm really looking forward to reading the other 5 volumes in the first run, and then really get into the second run. I do know that she is going to really come into her own. I love the character of Dr. Aphra. I love everything about her. I love her droid companions, 000 and BT-1, who are just evil, murderous versions of 3PO and R2. I'm just really looking forward to exploring Dr. Aphra more. She was one of the characters on Galaxy of Heroes that I really wanted to focus on and unlock as quickly as I could, and I was able to. Earlier this year, in fact, and it was really, really good. I love playing with her and her team in 3v3. Her and the droids are really, really good in that game mode. 5v5 is a little bit different. I don't think I don't have the right team composition for her in 5v5, but where I can, I undersize the team and just go 3 versus 5. I've also been reading the Battle of Jakku issues 4, 5 and 6, which have been good. They've been good. I've enjoyed seeing this part of the budding New Republic in the immediate aftermath of the Battle of Endor. You get to see Luke, not quite at the power we see him in the end of Mando Season 2 and in Mando Season 3, or in Book of Boba Fett Season 1, I should say. He's not in Mando Season 3, I don't think. So we don't quite see him at that level, but he's still incredibly powerful, and he's still got that aura about him. And they often talk about him as he's the guy who walked into a room with Vader and the Emperor and walked out on his own. So he's held in such high reverence in the Star Wars universe, and yet really comes across in the writing of this comic book and the stories they're telling. And it's really, really interesting. And you've got Leia and Han and Chewie, and you get to see what these guys are doing during what is essentially the Aftermath trilogy. And it's just a really good book. I've got the 3rd issue of Ewoks to read as well, and I think I've got a couple more issues of the Battle of Jakku to read as well. But I've been busy, and actually reading 2 volumes and 3 single issues I've been really pleased that I've been able to get to do that this month. It's been busy, but I've made some time, and I've really started to enjoy my comic reading again. Just nice to sit down and turn my brain off and just enjoy some Star Wars, really. Books wise, I've been very busy, so I've been on the road a lot, and that is really where I start to churn through some books. And so I have listened to Tempest Breaker, the High Republic Phase 3 audio drama centered around Lorna D. And it was a really interesting book. I didn't like the Phase 2 version of the audio drama, The Battle of Jeddah. I enjoyed the first one, which again centered around Lorna D and Avar Kriss. And Avar Kriss is in this one as well. But it's done in a way which I don't think I've come across yet in Star Wars, where it's Lorna recounting the story for a media interview. So you kind of come out of it at the end of it going, I don't know how much she's embellished here and maybe made herself look better. So there's always that question mark with Lorna. She's a great character. She is a great character in the High Republic era. I've also listened to A Disturbance in the Force, which, whilst not technically a Star Wars story, it is a story about Star Wars. And it's the making of the Christmas special, which The timing of it for me was very apt. I listened to it just before Skeleton Crew started, and there's a couple of references to the holiday special in certainly the first episode of Skeleton Crew, and I enjoyed it. It's not essential reading. If you're interested in the chaos and the carnage behind the creation of what is widely regarded as an abomination to Star Wars, then it's worth a listen. It's very, very well researched, it's very well presented, and it's got some good interviews and stories associated with it. I would recommend it. If you're a Star Wars fan and you'd like to know the nitty-gritty, the detail behind stuff, definitely worth it. It's up there with reference books. If you like that, you're going to like this. And it's just more... It's a reference, it's a how it was made for the Star Wars holiday special. And I might regret saying this, but let me know on Twitter at starwarsyoupod or by email starwarsyoupod@gmail.com. Do you want me to watch the Star Wars holiday special? I've never actually seen it. I've seen bits of it, but I've never actually sat down and watched the whole 2 hours. So if you want me to do it, let me know, and I will do it for Christmas 2025. I might regret offering that. TV-wise, though, I have naturally been watching Skeleton Crew. At the point of recording, I've seen episodes 1 through 4. Episode 5 is out on Christmas Eve, so I may try and find some space on Christmas Day in the evening to watch that. If not, it will happen at some point between Christmas and New Year. Very, very busy time in my household here. But episode 1 to 4, I didn't have high hopes for this series, and I think I've voiced that a little bit. It's not really been my bag that I thought I would enjoy. I enjoy the Goonies, I enjoy E.T., I enjoy all of the 80s Amblin kids movies, but they haven't held up for me as an adult. And so I was nervous going into this, whether this would be for me, and it's fine if it's not. I will still watch it, I'll still consume it, because there is an overarching story and it fits into the universe. I also know that if it's not for me, then I'm not the target demographic. And again, absolutely fine. Star Wars is for everyone. Everyone has different tastes. We like what we like. But, saying that, I have loved this. I've loved these first 4 episodes. I love the characters. I feel about them exactly the way I feel I should. And I love Jude Law's character. I want to know more about him. I want to know if he can actually use the Force. I want to know if he used to be a Jedi. I want to know his backstory. For me, though, the standout of the show is not Neil, as the side of Twitter I'm exposed to and fandom I'm exposed to generally wants me to believe. I like Neil, but he's not my favourite. SM33 is my favourite. And I think that's mainly, partly, possibly, because his name, SM33. He's a pirate. You've got Smee in Star Wars. It's brilliant. I love the creative ways they come up with names for droids through the letter and numbering of them. I know it doesn't work for 3PO. He is just C-3PO. And I know it doesn't work for R2-D2. But there are various droids, all of whom are completely escaping me at the moment, that they've created a name for, or an allusion to the inspiration behind the character, and I really love it. I know there's the pink R2 unit that's appeared in the Clone Wars, as well as the Droids D-Squad comic run. Can't remember their name. Can't remember her name at all, unfortunately. So apologies for that. Let me know. Drop me a comment. Drop me a tweet. Drop me a line somewhere. Let me know. Remind me of her name, because I genuinely can't remember it at the moment. I'll get off the recording and remember it straight away. It's always the way. But I've really, really, really enjoyed this show so far. I'm fascinated to see what they do next with it. And I'm not saying I want a season 2. I don't think it's ever planned to have a season 2, but it does fit into the Mandoverse somewhere. And so I think it will have an overarching consequence in the universe. So we'll just have to wait and see. But so far, really, really enjoying Skeleton Crew. It's just a fun show. Can't sing its praises enough. And there have been people out there that haven't enjoyed it, but the overwhelming response back has been positive. And I think Star Wars needed that, and I think we as the fans needed that. We needed something we can all get behind. And so that's pretty much all I've been up to this month in Star Wars, really. December's a busy month, and I haven't had as much time as I would want to, or money, really. But obviously, Christmas coming up, got kids, got family to see, got friends to see, all that good stuff. But it does mean that the funds are a bit lighter in December for new things. One thing I have forgotten to mention, and will be coming out on the YouTube channel, but I did actually get my PSA grading set back, and I'm pleased to say it was a good haul. There was one disappointment in there, but overall, very, very pleased with that return from PSA. So keep an eye out on the YouTube channel for that video. That'll be coming middle to the end of January. I upload every Monday, 10:30 UK time. So keep an eye out for that. If you go over to the YouTube channel, Star Wars Universe, then when you hit subscribe, if you hit the little bell icon, it will let you know when I actually upload as well. You'll get a little notification in your inbox, and it'll be very much appreciated. But turning our attention to the coming year, we have a few things which I wanted to just highlight and talk about, which I'm excited about. This isn't an extensive list. This pretty much only covers the first half of the year. We don't know really what's coming in the second half of the year yet. But we have Andor Season 2, which we do know is coming in April. And I'm mixed reactions from me for Andor Season 2. I'll be excited to see how they wrap up the story and tie it into Rogue One. And I really hope that it's good. Obviously, we were left with the cliffhanger of what Cassian had been building in the prison and contributing to the Death Star, the thing that he is later going to steal the plans and ensure its destruction. I think we get K2SO in this half of the story, so I'll be pleased to see him back. I seem to like droids more and more as time goes on. I always said I wasn't much of a droid guy, but here we are. I seem to enjoy the droids an awful lot. One thing I am very excited about, though, is we get Visions Season 3. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I don't know anything about the series. It's just got a 2025 release date attached to it, so it could be any time in the year. But I'm really looking forward to it. I kind of hope they go back to the anime studios for more stories, because I really like the art style and the way the stories were told there. But if they decided to go just, again, the European animation studios, or they go to the Americas and see if we can get some South American inspiration in there as well, that would be brilliant. Any way I can be exposed to new and different styles of animation, I'm up for. And I really like the way they do Star Wars. It's canon adjacent, so it's kind of an Elseworlds tale, but I'm here for it. We got Ronin, which I still need to listen to that book at some point. Hopefully it will come out in 2025. I think if they do, tying it in to Celebration Japan, which is coming out in April, and they are going down the anime route, I think that would be a good tie-in. Maybe show the first couple of episodes at Celebration. That could be good. That could be a good hook for, as I say, especially if they're going back to the anime styling of it. I think that could be a good fun thing to do. But looking at Andor Season 2, I think that's probably going to be debuted at Celebration Japan. So Celebration Japan, as I'm talking about the event, is it's at the end of April, 4-day weekend towards the end of April. So we should get some more news and some great interviews, some great fan interactions and things like that. The artwork to date for Celebration has been absolutely phenomenal, and they're now shifting at Celebration to every 2 years. So in 2 years' time, I think it is due back in the States, and then in 2 years after that, so 20, I've lost track of numbers now, 2029, it should hopefully be back in Europe. So hopefully that's when I will have a chance to go to the next Celebration. I'm not expecting to be able to figure out a way to get to the States for Celebration in 2027. You never know. If I do, I'll let you know. Comics wise, there's a lot of sort of catching up with trade paperbacks. So we've had the single issue releases, and there's a lot of sort of the trade paperbacks coming out. So Ewoks, for example, Battle of Jeddah, etc. But there's also a couple of new lines coming out as well. So a book called A New Legacy by Charles Soule, which is going to focus on what looks to be a bit of a ragtag group. So it's looks to be set in and around the original trilogy just after. And on the cover of that is people like Afra and a few other sort of probably more backgroundy characters from the original trilogy, a couple of bounty hunters and things like that. So I'll be interested to see what that is, if it's a four issue mini arc, or if it's a midi arc with 8 to 10 issues, or if it's going to be an ongoing. Don't know. So we'll see what happens with that. In January, we also have The Legacy of Vader, which is going to be a Kylo Ren focused, just judging by the cover, comic. I didn't mind The Rise of Kylo Ren. I thought it was quite an interesting book, and it gave a bit more info on the Knights of Ren. Maybe we get a bit more of that. Maybe it's a direct sequel. We'll see what happens. And then we have an ongoing starting in February, which is probably going to be 10, hopefully 15, called Fear of the Jedi, which is going to be set in the High Republic Phase 3, and will probably wrap up the main Marvel run for the High Republic. They've been fantastic to date. Every series has been brilliant. I know I'm a little bit down on Phase 2 in general, but the comic book was good. We got introduced to Ty Yorick that way and got to see the dark side glove that he uses. It was a really good series. Phase 1 is still my favourite. The way it weaves through the story is absolutely fantastic, and introducing the Drengir in that as well. Having only read Light of the Jedi and jumping straight into the comics, all of a sudden I'm confronted by some dark side plants. I was very, very confused, but I've grown to really like the Drengir as an adversary to the Jedi, and the way they've woven them through Phase 1 and 3 has been really, really well done. I can't recommend the High Republic enough, really. It's a great starting point for any people coming into Star Wars and just going, whoa, there's a lot of stuff here. Where do I begin? It's only a few years old. If you want to stick to the adult books, you can absolutely do that. But if you want, there are the young adult, there are the young readers, or the middle grade novels. You've got the comics, you've got The Acolyte as a live action TV show. And speaking of the comics, Fear of the Jedi, there is also the High Republic Adventures from Dark Horse, which I have not been able to start yet because they're not available digitally in the UK that I can find anyway. So I just haven't got around to picking those up in hard copies. I might well pick up trade paperbacks, maybe look in and around May the 4th, see if there's some deals anywhere that I can pick up the hard copies on those and get through those before the end of the High Republic main era. I don't doubt that we're going to revisit the High Republic in a multitude of different ways going forward. It's already been referenced in the ongoing comics through Marvel, as well as games like Fallen Order, and I don't doubt Survivor will have some sort of reference to the High Republic in it as well. But we have, on the book side of things, we've got 3, in fact, High Republic books coming out next year, which is going to finish the main book run for the High Republic. So we have the young reader, or the middle grade novel, is called Valiant Vow, and that's written by Justina Ireland, who is a really, really good author. And I've really enjoyed what she's done with what she's had so far in the High Republic. We've got Into the Light, which is a young adult novel, and I'm really looking forward to that. The young adult novels, I would say in terms of quality, are absolutely on par with the adult novels. They are, I would borderline call them essential reading for the High Republic. You can just read the adult novels, but they add so much more. They introduce such good characters. There is a character which is mainly through the young adult novels. Spoken about him before. He's a big rock. He's called Geode. He's absolutely fantastic. I'm completely obsessed with this character. I want to know everything about him. He's referred to often as a bit of a ladies' man, which is just hilarious to me. And just the way they work around him being a rock. They never see him move. They never hear him talk. It's fantastic. Really, really recommend it. And then you've got Trials of the Jedi by Charles Soule. Sorry, I haven't mentioned who Into the Light is written by. And that's Claudia Gray, who, again, has been an absolutely fantastic author in what she's written and what I've read through the High Republic so far. Claudia Gray is also responsible for brilliant books such as Lost Stars. So really, really good author to have in place for this book. But yes, Trials of the Jedi by Charles Soule, the finale, the big finish to the High Republic multimedia initiative. What's going to happen? How's it going to end? How is Charles Soule, who has been instrumental in this whole process, has been responsible for some of the most important moments in the High Republic, has had the trust from Lucas Books to take on this mammoth challenge, and he's knocked it out of the park again and again and again. All of the authors, the original 5, I think, and then they've added 3 or 4 more as time's gone on. All of the authors in the High Republic have done an absolutely amazing job. It's not always been maybe quite to my taste, but the stories are well written and they're coherent with each other. And you can't ask for more than that. In a initiative this big that has spanned this many years at this point in time. So I think Light of the Jedi came out early 2020, or it was meant to and then got delayed to 2021. So we've had a lot. We've had a few years of this initiative and it's been absolutely fantastic. I don't have any doubt or any question that they're going to stick this landing. I just want to know, will Marchion Ro survive? I think not. I don't think he can. For this to be an ending, I don't think he can. So the timing of those books coming out in the High Republic. So we've got Valiant Vow due out in May. You've got Trials of the Jedi due out in June. And then you've got Into the Light due out in April. So chronologically, you've got the YA novel, the middle grade novel, and then the adult novel. And then we are done with the main High Republic. We do have the announcement that came from, I want to say D23, but we do have a couple of other books due out this year as well, tying in to probably the 100-year gap between the end of the High Republic books and the events of the Acolyte. And we have the book called Acolyte Wayseeker, which is due out in May, and I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully that will fill in some of the gap for Vanestra Rowe. And we also have The Crystal Crown, which is by Tessa Grasson, and that's due out in July. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how those flesh out the characters we were introduced to, as well as the characters we already knew coming into the Acolyte. So The Crystal Crown is going to focus on the characters of Jecki and Yord from the Acolyte. So we get to see a little bit more of their relationship as it's built over the years and explore how they got to where they got to. So it'll be nice to see Yord again. He wasn't particularly my favourite, but he had a good little run in the Acolyte. And Jecki, one of the best death scenes, I think. Like, she definitely wasn't getting up from that. And I know a lot of people have been joking that a lightsaber to the body could just be shrugged off now. The Acolyte proved it couldn't. That was made sure that she wasn't getting up from that. I'm looking forward to those two as well. So we've got 5 books that have been announced, and they will announce more. It's been a busy year for Star Wars, and we'll see what else comes down the pipe. And I think Celebration might hold a few announcements for us, so we won't have long to wait. End of April, hopefully my May episode, we'll be able to dive into that information a little bit more, and I'll be able to go through and update this list then and see what else is coming out that I'm looking forward to. But it does kind of stop in and around the Crystal Crown coming out in July. That's the latest of anything I could find really at the moment. The only thing that goes beyond that really is obviously Visions Season 3 and the collectibles side of things. We do have the next 3 sets for Star Wars Unlimited announced. The first one, which is coming out in March, is called Jump to Lightspeed, and it's looking like it's going to be focusing on pilots and ships a lot more, so that'll be an interesting new mechanic brought into the game. So we'll see how that goes. I am liking the announcements I've seen so far. They've announced some special high premium and cost reflective of that booster packs, so which will guarantee higher rarity cards, and there's no base set in them, so it's just rares, legendaries, foils, hyperspace foils, and a higher rate of showcases, apparently. Fingers crossed. So we'll see what they look like. I will probably only get a couple of them to try out on the channel, see if I can pull a showcase from somewhere. But outside of that, we're looking at Legends of the Force, which, if it's following the release pattern of this year, will probably be in and around the June time. And that will be, hopefully, I'm fingers crossed for that one. We've got no news on that one whatsoever. Hopefully, we will have a Yaddle card in that, which can then add to my Yoda folder that I'm putting together, which does also have the Jar Jar card in it, because if you haven't seen the Star Wars Unlimited Jar Jar Binks card, it's hideously beautiful. I love it. I really, really love it. But that's really good. The other thing they're doing with Jump to Lightspeed as well, which I didn't mention, is they're splitting out the 2-player starter set. So you just buy one of the pre-made decks, and you get an extra booster pack in there as well to kind of level out the value. I'll be picking up both of those, one of each starter, see what they're like. Keep an eye out for the YouTube channel for that towards March. And the third set, which again, following the release schedule of this year, will be the beginning of November, and that one's called Secrets of Power. So I can't read anything into that. That could be anything. That could be Ancient Sith. That could be Grandmasters of the Jedi. That could be weapons. You could have the Death Star. You could have Starlight Beacon. You could have all sorts in there. The Rule of Two. You could have Darth Bane, Revan, Malak. So many options that they can do, and they don't seem to be shying away from what is truly canon and Legends at the moment. So there is a little bit of crossover in there. There's a couple of characters, there's a couple of things in there in the current sets that sort of cross over. But we'll see. And finally, for this episode, I wanted to break down actually just how much I've been reading this year in total. So through 2024, I have read 79 issues of comics. Now, a lot of those have been in volumes, so I have had to break that down. But I thought breaking it down to issues was the only real true way to see how much I've read, because you have to keep it consistent. And things like the Kanan, The Last Padawan comic run, it's 12 issues. And I bought them individually because it actually, the way I was doing it and at the time I was doing it, it worked out cheaper to do it that way. I don't know how that works, but that's how it worked. On the flip side of that, you also have things like Dr. Aphra and the Darth Vader series, which I just buy in volumes. So they're not comparable. So I had to find a baseline for it. And so, yeah, broke it down to issues. And I've read 79 issues of Star Wars comics this year. Now, I would have said that my busiest months were February and June Don't know why. Clearly just had more time in those months, where I'd read 14. But I then pipped it right at the post in December, where I read 15 issues of comics. And I was pleased with that. Really, really pleased with that. On the book front, I have read, or listened to, in my case, 29 Star Wars novels. Now, you can probably take a couple of those off because they are like the 5-minute young readers, like preschool readers books, where they just kind of highlight the main adult novels from the High Republic and other main canon books. So I think I would be happy to sort of settle that on 25 adult or longer books. Because the middle grade novels, because I listen to them on audio, they run anywhere between 5 and 6 hours. So that's a fair chunk of time that I'm listening to the book. But the busiest month, the best month I had in that was September, where I had 5 books. But again, I think a couple of those, most of those in fact, were probably the 5-minute sort of preschool stories. And there are a couple of original stories in there. The Great Jedi Rescue, I think, is one of them, which is based on Phase 1 of the High Republic. But there's also been a couple of the audio dramas in there as well. So definitely Tempest Breaker in December. December I listened to 2 books, which is very, very good for me. November I listened to 3 books. Those were all proper size books, as it were. January, though, blows it all away with 4. And I definitely listened to 4 full-size books. I had a busy driving month in January. 29 books I've read, in air quotes, listened to in 2024. So I'm really pleased with that. Really, really pleased with that. And I've managed to listen to the majority, if not all, of the new releases, plus a big chunk of the back catalogue. I might take some time and actually figure out what I've got left on my canon list to read. And I can bring that to you once I've done that, to see how many I've read, how many I've got to read, things like that. So I have also a little caveat on my December number. It's really 2.5 because I'm halfway through Battle Scars, but because I haven't finished it, I'm going to tick that over into January. I will have finished it in December, but not at the point of recording. So I'll leave my thoughts on that one. That was obviously the one that won the Twitter poll. So that's really it for this episode. I only really have one final thing to put to you guys. Later on in 2025, my life will hopefully change. And that's a good thing. It's something I've been working to for the last 5 years. And that will mean I have a little bit more time. And so I wanted to see what you guys thought about me possibly breaking this podcast up into smaller, more regular episodes. Whether that be fortnightly or weekly, we'll need to see. I think I'll probably go to fortnightly initially if the response is positive to that change. And if it's not, then I'll just leave it as monthly and just enjoy my time. It's not a speedy process, this, but I do enjoy it, and I've loved doing it, and I will keep doing it. I've just, the day of recording this, I've just set up my interview for January, and I'm very much looking forward to that conversation. It's not someone I know, and so I'm also pushing my own boundaries with doing stuff like that, and I want that to continue. I've also reached out to a few other companies as well for other things, so hopefully that will come off, but I don't want to speak anything into not happening. So yeah, let us know. Twitter at starwarsyoupod, email starwarsyoupod@gmail.com, YouTube channel, comment section, Star Wars Universe. Get in contact, let us know. And I do just want to, before I sign off fully, send out a massive thank you to all of my guests that I've had on this year. And those people being Josh Hoyt, Brian Klein, and Hayley Hobbs. Meg Dow, and Dan Griffin. So thank you to everyone who has joined me this year and talked Star Wars with me. I hope to continue those conversations with you in a variety of different places. You're always welcome back on the podcast anytime you want, and I look forward to chatting Star Wars with you for many years to come. So here's a raising of an imaginary glass. Here is to 2025. Here is to a good year in Star Wars. And always remember, may the Force be with you. Always.